Yes, it does. A little bouncy. Gonna check. Talking into a microphone and a camera while trying to exercise. So, when I was in middle school, my dad got me for Christmas the Iron Man Timex watch. I think he just saw it as a cool digital watch for the time. So this would have been, what, if I was 8th grade, I graduated in 93, so this would have been 4 years earlier than that. So 89, 88, Christmas maybe 87 if it was 7th grade. So it's the original Timex watch with the Iron Man branded. Had kind of orangish buttons. It was basic, you know, functionality with stopwatch and timer and a lap button. And it's not like we were endurance athletes or anything like that. Like I said, I think my dad just saw it was a cool looking digital watch in what was becoming a, you know, more digital type era. But in it there was the little pamphlet that came with the watch that talked about Iron Man triathlon and Kona and the history and all that. And I thought, man, that's just the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. You know, swim 2.4 miles, ride 112 miles, and then run a marathon. You know, I heard people do marathons and stuff like that, thinking that was like the pinnacle, but instead it's just the third event of an extreme endurance event. Again, we weren't a runner family, we weren't a bike family. I mean, we liked to swim, but it's not like we did any competitive swimming. So I always just took it as one of those, oh, that's a cool thing. You know, it'd be a fun thing to do or a cool thing to do, but not really thinking that I could ever potentially do something like that myself. It's just kind of out of my world. Might as well said, you're gonna fly into space one day. You know, that's something that other people did, not something that the Lyons family did, coming from, you know, blue collar black background in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So as I grew up, I started putting on weight in my adulthood kind of the second I graduated high school. You know, they say marching band is not athletic, but I did it, and it helped me maintain my weight throughout high school. But after high school, even though I was still in the National Guard, I just didn't focus on my physical health. So I started putting on weight, as one does typically, and it's the normal, you know, a couple pounds a year. Kind of times where I would go up a little bit, times where I'd go down a little bit, based on what's going on in my life, my mental health at the time. A lot of people eat their feelings. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm fat and happy, but in periods of high anxiety and stress, I tend to not take care of myself and would lose a bunch of weight. So after my first divorce, I lost some weight, and then, you know, found and married my second wife, started having kids. You know, and just things get busy. Life gets busy. Start putting on a little bit of weight, a little bit more. So anyway, in 2012, when we divorced, 2011 going into 2012, very high stress period. I had lost my job, had to move my family to Kentucky, and then wife ended up leaving, and I had just me and 2 kids to care for. And so what energy I had, I put into the kids, didn't put it into myself. So I lost weight, got down to, I think, like 213 from, you know, maybe 285 or something like that. Lost about 50-60 pounds. Then I met Rhonda, and that's where Fat and Happy really took off, because I was in a relationship that was not just supportive, but I was able to find a stable job again, even though that took moving to Alabama. You know, just started putting on weight. Rhonda loves to cook, I love to eat, and so we spent our time, again, fat and happy, right? And but it got to the point where the growth became exponential. So rather than a couple pounds a year, it was 5 pounds a year, and it was 10 pounds a year. By the time I got to 2020, so the New Year's from 2019 to 2020, we had taken a band trip to Tampa Bay as chaperones. We always did chaperoning, but this one was really hard on us. So the amount of walking and stuff like that, which was fine in previous years, we had gotten to a point where we were so big that we just couldn't keep up anymore. And so then we were like, we really got to do something. In 2020, we all remember what happened then. March of 2020, we go into lockdown because of COVID. They start listing all the comorbidities for COVID, and we're like, they said, excessive weight, check, we got that. High blood pressure, check, we got that. You know, high cholesterol, check, we got that. You know, the list of comorbidities that compounded the dangers around COVID made it worse. We're like, man, we still got 2 kids in the house to raise. We have 4 other kids in our family. You know, they're going into their adult life. We've got to now really make a change and make it stick this time. We tried all the diets. We tried low carb, Atkins, you know, the paleo, vegan, all the, you know, diet fads. You know, get this little packet of, it's only 100 calories and you can eat up to 6 of them a day. Yay! None of that really stuck. And when you have two people who are seriously struggling, it's really easy for one person to pull the other person off the wagon. So we said we got to make a drastic change. So how do we do that? Well, bariatric surgery has obviously been out there for a long time. We've had friends who have had some success with it. The only problem is our insurance didn't cover it. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother video. I don't think I have enough battery life to go through that. But we're like, we're gonna make this stick. We're gonna figure it out. So we paid for 2 surgeries out of pocket on our own, right? Through a mixture of financing and savings and what we got back on taxes and stuff like that. So we came up with the 25 grand for each of us to get the surgery. Rhonda went first. That was a couple months later. And then, so I had my surgery at the beginning of April 2021. Had my surgery. Doctor said, all right, I want you to get out. I want you to start exercising 3 days a week, 30 minutes. Just walk. That's all you gotta do, just walk. I started shedding the weight. The weight started shedding kind of so quick that I felt I could get on top of the training for the first time in my life. You know, I got up to officially 365. I think I was 385. I say 365 because that's the one that I have in my phone that I recorded that weight at one time. And even just getting down to 300 pounds, I was able to start moving. I could, the pounding on my joints and knees, hips, ankles, feet, all that was a whole lot less, and I was able to start not just walking. I was like, man, I want to start running. So, as I had done many times before, fired up the old Couch to 5K app, started that, and started running 3 to 4 times a week. The little neighborhood I lived in, if I went the perimeter around all the streets and then back to my house, was like almost exactly 1 mile. So that was my thing. I'm gonna run 1 mile. I'm gonna run 2 miles. And start building up. I'm feeling good. Weight keeps coming off. And man, I just can't believe how much I'm able to accomplish on this. What else can I do? So the surgery was the beginning of April. At the end of May, I ran, and there's air quotes around ran, my first 5K. I had ran 5K before in the Army, but that was when I was a whole lot younger. My hair was actually brown. There was actually hair there. But I hadn't ran a full 5K since. So this one I did the 5K, and I was like, man, I just want to make it to the halfway point before I had to start walking. I did. So I ran the first half, ran the last half, did about 45 minutes. I was like, man, that feels pretty good. And then that Timex watch popped up in the back of my head about that time, and I was like, let's look into this triathlon thing. I mean, I knew Ironman was insane distance, but I learned that there's different distances of triathlon. And so I looked, there's some local races put on by local triathlon club, Team Rocket Tri Club. And so I was like, I'm going to sign up for one of these. I was like, what are you doing? So the first one was called Try for Old Glory. It was over the July 4th weekend. And it was a little bit different. It was reverse order. So it went run, bike, swim. And the bike was actually a mountain bike course. I was like, well, I mean, I had a road bike that I had gotten for a long time before, and I got around a mountain bike that was really, you know, kind of a hybrid cruiser slash mountain bike. I was like, let's try that. So I trained for it. I signed up. I trained for it. I have not ridden a bike like that since I was about 12 years old, and it was a lot more difficult. I should have done a sprint that was on the road. It would have been a whole lot easier, but it being a brand new experience and, you know, mountain bike course, probably could have done a little better had it been on the road, but that is okay. I finished next to last. It was not last place. There was a 72-year-old lady who was running her first sprint triathlon, and I smoked her by about 3 minutes. So needless to say, I didn't smoke her. There was not many people left, actually. Whenever I was still out on the bike course, there were people who were, you know, had their bikes packed up and were driving out and waving as they went by. But I finished, and I was like, okay, so I think I want to do this, but not the mountain bike way. I want to do regular triathlon, so with the road bike. So again, I had an old aluminum road bike, shifters on the down tube, you know, so it was significantly old, but still a good bike. So I started riding it with the Tri Club on Tuesdays, and probably going out with groups that I shouldn't have. I should have stuck with the slower group. I was fine to keep up with the faster groups until I wasn't, right? And I would drop off. Most of the time, someone would stick with me, but I'd tell them, no, I work out here, I know where I'm going, I'll just go ahead and go. You know, I didn't want to keep them, you know, keep them up. They probably had dinner plans. Anyway, so the goal was to do my first Olympic race in September down in Orange Beach. So ocean swim, road race, or road bike, and then run. And I did the first proper sprint at Huntsville Sprint Tri again, put on by Team Rocket Tri. Didn't finish next to last. I moved up. I went a little further. I believe I ran that whole 5K. Oh, I did run the whole 5K in Try for Old Glory too, but that was also the first event of the day. And did all right. I felt pretty good about it. You know, I felt like, man, this is something cool. I think I can do this. And then there's another race put on by Team Rocket called Rocket Man that was before the Orange Beach race. And I was like, I don't think I'll be ready for that in time. So that's why I signed up for the Orange Beach one. Plus it gave me around a weekend down at the beach. But then they sent out a message about a week before the Rocket Man race and said, hey, we still have some spots, sign up. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So, signed up, and I ran Rocket Man for the first time. Now, I did not run the full 10K. I also didn't come in last. And I started feeling pretty good, man. I was like, this is something I think I can do. It's fun, you know, for someone like me with a, you know, that can't really stay focused on just one thing. Like if I just did biking, I think I would get tired of it. If I just did running, I think I'd get tired of it. I always thought swimming would be the thing I would love doing. It's the one I love the less because I can't have anything in my ears. And when I'm just staring at the black line, the old jack is in my ears then telling me to maybe go ahead and pull up. We don't have to do this full workout. No, we did good enough today. It's better than we did yesterday. So, turns out swimming is not my best. None of them are my best, really. But, so I did Rocket Man. A couple of weeks later, did the race down in Orange Beach. We had a great weekend. Took the dogs, got an Airbnb, had a fun time, and actually got a podium. So, when you're a big boy or a big girl, they have the Clydesdale and Athena categories. So for women, it's over 160 pounds. For men, it's over 220. So I was still very well above 220 at this time. I think I was about 275 when I did the Orange Beach race. And so I came in third in my big boy age group. So of the guys who were 45 to 50 and over 220 pounds, I was the third fastest one. I don't think I was the third out of three. I think I actually beat one person. So I did that, and that was the last race of the season. That was enough to carry me into the winter to like, I think I'm going to keep doing this. So kept doing it. We did end up buying a house the next year, so I was busy with new house stuff. I didn't get to put as much time into triathlon training as I hoped, but I did keep the running up pretty well. So I ran my first half marathon that next April, so this is 2022. And, you know, just keep checking off new accomplishments. First half marathon, I ran 8 miles before I walked the first time. Other than 8 stations, we don't count walking 8 stations, right? That's just safe. Yeah, and then did I think I skipped Huntsville Sprint that year and volunteered, but I did Rocket Man again that year. And then had this wild idea that, man, maybe I need to look at doing a full Ironman. Let's think back to that, you know, that Timex watch and what that pamphlet told me. But a full is probably crazy, but we can do a half. And then another thing too was 2023 was year 2 of Tulsa, my hometown, hosting an Ironman. And I was like, man, if I do 2022 was the second year. If I do a half in 2023, then I could do a full in Tulsa in 2024. That'd be awesome. Not only would I get to do a full Ironman, I get to do it in my hometown. I get to do it in front of friends and family, you know, my extended family that lives there. Some friends from high school, all that kind of stuff, you know. Being able to see that, and it'd be just a good homecoming for that. And so I was like, I'm going to start training. I'm going to do a half in 2023 and a full in 2024. Well, they 2023 was year 3 of the initial contract that Ironman had with Tulsa, and it didn't go great. They didn't have quite the turnout that they wanted, so they weren't going to renew the contract. So 2023 was going to be the last year hosting a full Ironman in Tulsa. So, oh crap, what do I do now? I still want Tulsa to be my first full. So if that's the case, it means 2023 has got to be the year I do my first full. So I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. She's like, you're crazy. I mean, just the distances were unfathomable compared to, you know, to where I was. 2022, I didn't even do that many triathlons, and the longest triathlon I've done is only a quarter of the distance. The longest distance I've ran is only half of the run. There's just still so much that I have to build on to even get to it. But set my mind to it. I started working. I was like, I'm going to wait and register until I absolutely have to. Because then I can decide if I need to, I can just do the half in Tulsa, because they were adding a half for that last year. And still just do a full somewhere else. But it was after the first of the year. I'd started in early November training. It was after the first of the year. I had 2 really good weeks of training, and I was like, screw it, man. I'm doing the full thing. And so I signed up for the full, put the money down. I was like, all right, now it's real. So kept training. It was early race, so the race was in May. Not a lot of people out training at that time of year, so a lot of it was on my own. Most of it was on my own. Almost all of it was on my own. So I didn't have accountability partners, so I did let myself talk myself out of too many workouts than I should have. But I just kept going, man. Just kept going. And then comes around to race week. I'm feeling pretty good. I haven't quite ridden 100 miles yet. I think like 88 miles was the longest I'd ridden to that point. I hadn't ran a marathon yet, but I was regularly running over, like I was running like 18:20s for my weekly long runs. So I was like, I think I can do this. I pay for it anyway. I was going to do it one way or another. And so I go. 2 of my kids come with me, and then one of my other kids that lives in Tulsa, and my parents, and my cousin, and my niece, second cousin, I call her my niece. They came out to watch, and man, it was tough. I made so many mistakes that first day. I didn't drop my nutrition off in the right place, so really I had only what I could carry with me and what was on the course, but I had trained with the stuff that I had with me, not necessarily with the stuff on the course. But I just kept going, man. I swam. My swim was a little better than I expected. I think it was like hour 40, so that wasn't bad. Got on the bike. It was a hilly course, 5,500 feet in elevation, 2 loops. There were some monster hills in it. For me, I'm not good on hills. And man, I just kept going. Came in, did the bike, took off on the run. That's when I got to see my family a couple times on the run course. I was just going and going, man. And I was doing really good through the first 10K. I ran the first 10K, and I was like, all right, got to start the walk run. So I started walk run, and then the runs become a little shorter, the walks become a little longer, and I get to the halfway point of the marathon, and it said the cutoff time, and I had like an hour and 15 minutes. It's like, all right, I might make this. I said, either way, I'm going to finish. May not make it in the 17-hour cutoff. So if I don't make it in the 17-hour cutoff, I'm still going to finish, so I can say I did the distance. I won't get the tattoo. I won't get anything that says finisher on it. You know, I want that to be official. I want it to be real. But I'm going to say I did it. But then there's this guy I'd been leapfrogging with, and he was an older guy, had done multiple Ironman, was a little undertrained for this particular race, but he had a group of people that were in his little tri club, and it was their first full, so he was doing it with them just to kind of help them, you know, train and stuff like that. So anyway, we're leapfrogging, and he's like, hey, I don't want to mess up your race or anything. He said, we keep passing each other back and forth. He said, your runs, you run past me, your walks are so slow that I'm passing you back. He said, if you just walk at a particular pace, I want to say it was like, you know, 15-minute miles or whatever. So a good walk, right? He said, I've done the math. If you walk at 15, you could finish and still be under time. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. You know, I had this thing in my head that it only counts if I'm running it, right? And so I was trying to just run as much as I could. But you gotta just finish, man. You just gotta keep going. And so I walked with him, and we walked so this is about mile 14. We walked the whole rest of the way together. We talked. He's from Colorado. Like I said, he'd done multiple Ironman. He hadn't trained as hard for this one as he had previous, but he was still going to finish, and he was helping someone like me go through. And I was like, man, that's so awesome. So we talked about family, talked about triathlon, talked about my weight loss journey, you know, what all this meant to me. And then last porta potty, I'm like, all right, I gotta go pee again. I was well hydrated that day. I peed so much. So I peed. He walked on ahead and did his finish line suit. He said, when we get to the finish line, you go first, I go first. It doesn't matter. He said, but make sure you go down that carpet and soak it in. He said, this is your moment. And so, because I had went to the bathroom, he went first. And I did, man. I came down that finish line chute. There's my family. My son was videoing and was yelling at me to ring the first timer's bell. I did not see him. I did not see the bell. I did not ring that bell. I just went right on by. But it didn't matter at that point because I had a huge smile on my face. Woo, almost ate it. I had a huge smile on my face. I was accomplishing what I had set out for, and proved that, yeah, maybe that middle school kid from blue collar family in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the late 80s could accomplish something like this. So I did it. Finished in 16:32. I tell people I could have watched one episode of Friends, still finished in time. Oh, it didn't matter, man. I was a finisher. I was an Ironman. They called my name. They said, Jack Lyons, you are an Ironman. My wife was there. Kids were there. My niece was there. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.